Good to go. All right, so Stacey, welcome back. We're here for another conversation. We're talking about distributed leadership, how it shows up in the very real world of running a veterinary practice. I was talking to some of the veterinarians in the Go program recently, and they were asking about, what are some of the hurdles that are still facing as it relates to taking the leap into practice leadership or ownership, and this idea of understanding, which roles are most important to hire for within a veterinary practice came up, right? And I thought it was a really interesting opportunity for us to get together and talk about this idea of job descriptions, role descriptions, job titles, how that makes sense, how it doesn't in the changing world that we're in right now, going from the industrial era to more of a rapidly changing, volatile, uncertain, complex world, where a sort of adaptability and responsiveness is of higher organizational value than just pure efficiency. So love to kick off this conversation here in a little bit and hear a little bit more about how you guys do it there at Veazie, specifically related to role descriptions. And the idea here is that the historical approach was you had one job, and this was the description for your job, and that's what you came to work every day to do. And that's it. You don't deviate outside of that description, right? When we look at the future that we're going into, radically changing, requires a little bit more adaptability, opportunity to evolve, to be flexible and dynamic in the work that one does. So I'm curious about how you guys do this there at Veazie, where you hire for specific roles, but also create the sort of openness or the space for flexibility in responding to either challenges or opportunities that you might face as an organization.
Sure. So we do just kind of start at the beginning. We do have job descriptions. We have a job description for our CSRs. We have a job description for we have hospital assistants, veterinary technicians, doctors, practice manager, and our medical director. So we do have job descriptions for each of those positions. Part of the understanding goes back to we are all here to take care of our clients and our patients.
That's your
So
core mission, your core purpose.
absolutely, that is our our core mission. And actually, I would even take it further to say we are here to take care of our clients. The veterinary medicine and the patient care is how we do that.
It's the way
But
you do
dogs
it.
and
Yeah.
cats don't walk themselves into the front door of the vet clinic. I mean, we
Mhm.
only see dogs and cats here. And it's if they don't come in saying that, hey, you know what, this hurts. Like that's not a thing. So it goes back to customer client service.
Sure.
So if that means a doctor ends up, cleaning a cage, or I mean, I've always said that I'm not going to ask someone to do something that I'm not myself willing to do. And if that means I go clean cages on occasion, if they help, yep, I will. But just because you're hired for one specific role does not mean that is your role forever here. We do have people who, like the hospital assistant, which is similar to like a kennel attendant type role, where they start with cleaning kennels, learning how to, wipe up counters after everybody else. If somebody is hired for that role, they can move up into like a veterinary assistant role. So a step forward where they start learning more, a little bit of restraint or a little bit of more of the medical protocols, drawing up vaccines, things like that. So it's just that next level. If they want to go one step further, there's online veterinary technician programs. There's also a local vet tech school here. They can go back and continue working for us part-time and continue up that ladder. And once somebody comes in LVT, we do have this like extra coordinator level. So those technicians are technicians that have been here a while, understand, pretty much our flow of how the entire clinic works. They're usually the technicians that have been here for a couple of years that we literally feel you could put anywhere. You could put them in dental, in surgery, in exams, and they're going to succeed. Those people can become a coordinator, and those are the people that run the day. So our coordinators tell the doctors what their order of cases are, or what their priorities are at any given moment. Because most doctors are focused on their day, and they don't necessarily see beyond their blinders of what is in front of them in their day and their schedule. The coordinator is responsible for the whole entire hospital.
Ah, interesting role.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that person coordinates the day. So that our coordinator, we have several of them, they rotate. Their job is to look at, okay, what is this day bringing? Okay, I've got surgeries, I have dentals, I have 3 doctors in dental. No, I'm sorry, I've got 3 doctors in surgery and 1 in dental, and I've got 2 in exams, or whatever our day brings. And they also decide what staff is working where. Our staff is all cross-trained to the different areas. So just because, yesterday you were in surgery, today you might be in exams, or you might be in the lab, or you could be, somebody who has a special interest that does something different. Like we do have 2 technicians that do rehab. We do have a couple of technicians that are responsible for the administration of chemo. And we have one doctor that oversees the entire chemo program. So there's different ways to specialize even within the LVT role. And doctors, they have their own interests. So if they go off and have CE and we're going to bring on this new service or whatever, the technicians can also develop an interest in that and become not necessarily specialized in the terms of a VTS level, although we have had that happen here as well. But in terms of, okay, that's something I'm interested in. I want to learn more. I want to do more. We have 2 doctors here that do a little bit with repro, a little bit of therio. So, and we have technicians that are really interested in it, and some technicians that want nothing to do with it. So, so we have a little bit of both. But those are technicians and doctors and assistants that have an interest in that. So they're going beyond what is in their job description and learn more, and therefore get to do more. And I think that the never stop learning thing is so huge. So if you can entertain somebody's brain and they're always learning, I don't there's much less job dissatisfaction
Ah,
if you're always learning.
you're engaging them.
Engaging,
Yes,
engaging
they're
their
engaged.
brain. Yes. And listening to them too. So, having technicians that can do things, suggest things, move ideas forward, that work in a collaborative effort with the doctors. So it's not the doctors always saying we should do X, Y, and Z. The tech can go, hey, well, what about this? The doctor's like, oh, interesting. I didn't think of that. So it's much more of a collaborative effort where you've got multiple brains working on the same problem. The technicians are never, or the assistants or whoever, they're never going to prescribe meds. They're never going to do surgery. They're not going to step outside of what we can do legally, but they can definitely have the conversation with, oh, hey, you know what? I was reading on VSPN or VIN the other day that this, that, and the other thing. Did you ever think of that? And the doctor's like, oh, interesting. And so it becomes much more of a conversation and not
Yeah.
so much a top down, that's not your job, don't think about my cases. It's not that at all.
Seems like a much more collaborative type of environment,
Definitely.
communicative type of environment,
Yes,
open,
very much
responsive,
so.
and flexible, it seems.
Mhm.
What stuck out to me in this is this interesting blend between centralized leadership and decentralized leadership. It's fascinating to me, right? Initially, some people think, oh, decentralized leadership, or distributed leadership, that's the way to go. I don't need to take all that weight of leadership on my shoulders as one individual, so I'm going to distribute it entirely to the team. And they find out that there's some pain points in that, just
There
as there's
are.
some pain points in taking all of the ownership and all the weight and responsibility of leadership on one individual's shoulders and not decentralizing or distributing anything to the
Right.
group. So I find this fascinating because you have clear defined roles. For one, this allows individuals to progress and pursue mastery in their own personal development. That feels good. It drives personal well-being. It's also kind of more of a centralized approach. It's like, here's your role, right? And you can see the sort of, steps that one can
Progression.
take,
Yep.
progression. But I find it also fascinating how you've made space for people to lean into their interests or their desired specialties. For example, rehab, chemo, as you gave examples, as a way of emphasizing wholeness, which is one of the key tenets that we see in companies that utilize distributed or decentralized leadership practices, right? Trying to engage the individual to step into their whole being at work, right? Not
Yep.
just filling their one role, their job description, but say, what else enlivens you outside of this? Can you lean into that? And in a way that grows the organization as well. So I find that coordinator role particularly interesting, and also how it's had an impact on the culture of your staff and their ability to
Absolutely.
communicate and be open with each other. Fascinating.
It is, and it's such a great environment when the communication happens. The biggest downfall of this is if the communication doesn't happen. So there we have, we use Teams, we use email, we have huddles every morning, we have staff meetings once a week, which I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, that's a lot of staff time and a lot of money, but the communication that we get out of those staff meetings is enormous. And we always set out meeting notes. So like if you don't miss it, or if you do miss the meeting, you can read the meeting notes. So those are all sent out. And it's just part of the buy-in for here is you need to read those, you need to ask questions. You need to be part
Engage.
of it. You need to, right, you need to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Like you have to engage, you have to be
Yeah,
part of it.
right.
You need to be, you need to be involved and you have to be invested in it too. This is not the kind of, we don't have the kind of clinic where you can just show up, do your job and go home. People who come with that mindset and mentality don't last a long time here
Right,
sometimes
right.
because they're frustrated with, how many people's, like they see like there's too many hands in the pot. But to me, you get a better outcome. More input is better outcome in places like this.
Love this. You're also going through a bit of a transition now. You said Dave Cloutier, your sort of legacy
Yes.
founder, legacy owner there at
Legacy
Veazie,
owner.
had just
Yep.
completed his last surgery yesterday, last full
Yes.
day as a
His
veterinarian
last full
there.
day. Last full day as a
Um,
scheduled veterinarian in our schedule was yesterday. Yep.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you're finding ways to distribute some of the activities that he held within his role as medical director to
Mhm.
other people within the team. So I'd like to hear that a little bit more because
Sure.
some people, when they hear initially about this idea of distributed leadership, or another term some people sometimes hear is self-management, they think, well, you're going to get rid of all the managers. And that's not the case at all. I mean, you're the practice manager and you're there, right? But
Mhm.
you're utilizing this distributed approach. So I find that fascinating. It doesn't remove the individual, but it distributes some of the activities of that individual to the team such that that individual can do other higher value added activities. So can you describe some of the shifts or what you've seen as you're trying to distribute some of the work that Dave was doing to the broader team?
Sure. So what we did is Dave sat down and kind of like divided what he thought the top 10 biggest things that he does. So he
In the medical
divided
director
in
role?
as a medical director role. So like as a medical director, what do I do? And he's like, okay, I've got final say with equipment and protocols, building maintenance, computers, staffing, communication with Soveto, ordering and inventory, protocols, medications, what do we have in hospital, distributor leadership. So all of those things. And then what he did is he looked at our coordinator team. He looked at, doctors that we currently have. He looked at managers, receptionists that we currently have and kind of said, all right, there are people on the team already that have these strengths. So instead of hiring this new person as one individual person, why don't I have 10 people, which it seems like a lot. Why don't we have these 10 people where each of them has a strength? So so this team is made up of myself. I kind of have a little bit of the I have a little bit of everything, to be honest, just because the nature of my role as practice manager. But we have a doctor who's taking on all the ordering and inventory, and he's working together with one of the other doctors on protocol. So the two of them are working together. They would still involve the rest of our doctor team in big decisions, like, okay, if we're going to change our vaccine line or we're going to change how we treat whatever disease, they would have conversations together. It wouldn't be just, this is what I say, do as I say. We have another doctor who is really interested in culture. So he's the one that has some of the fun staff meetings. He's been putting together a couple of, ones where it's more team bonding, team building, things like that. Building and maintenance and equipment went to one of our coordinators. Um, Computers and protocols in terms of like what we're doing in our PIMS went to one of our other coordinators. Ordering and inventory went to another coordinator who's working with the doctor that's working the protocol. So like they all interweave with one another.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the big things when we joined Soveto, they asked for a map, like a management structure, and we literally drew a spider web. And I
Ah.
don't think it was well, I shouldn't say it wasn't well received. They're like, oh, really? Like, no, really?
I'm
That
sure
that
they've never
that
seen anything like
confirms
that.
it.
But you
They've
don't
never
normally
seen anything
see
like that.
that, right? You see the
Nope.
top-down pyramid
Correct.
everywhere you go.
Versus the
Our
spider
legal
web.
systems, our educational systems, our familial, religious, governmental institutions, they're all structured in this way, built for an older time,
Mhm.
right? And so you're highlighting, I think, an organizational structure that is more like a network.
It
It's not
is.
saying that the authority isn't there or that the hierarchy isn't
Yep.
there. It just shows up in different ways, right? That's what we're saying here. It's not that hierarchy isn't there. You still have a hierarchy of authority
Absolutely.
around, for example, medicine,
Mhm.
right? But it's a functional hierarchy rather than
Right.
a positional hierarchy. I think it's what you're saying here.
It is. So we still have our doctors. The doctors are the ones that, the doctors are being doctors. They're looking at their cases, they're diagnosing their animal, they're the patients that we see, they're recommending surgery, they're performing the surgery, they're prescribing the medications. So that has not changed. They are literally doctors. They've taken on these new additional pieces and parts of that medical director role and have moved forward with that. But it's not all laid on one person's shoulders. It's just split apart among several other people.
Yeah.
We have regular meetings to talk about things like that. And I, as practice manager, like if a situation is brought to me and it involves, whatever it involves, I would go talk to that medical director
Yep.
who is not in charge of, but like that is their focus.
Yes.
And if it's a bigger problem, I'll take it to the entire team.
One thing that I'm imagining would be coming up for someone who's new to this concept, listen to it for the first time. They might be thinking, that sounds great, but how do you keep track of all of this? One, how do you keep track of who's doing what? Would love to hear a little bit about that. And two, aren't they coming to you asking, okay, I'm doing more work. How am I going to be compensated for that work? So how do you think about that? How do you manage those 2 points, tracking and then associating dealing with the appropriate compensation for that additional work?
So the tracking part is a little bit of it's a mixed effort. So some of that I take on myself as a practice manager because at the end of the day, a lot of it comes back to that's my role as well.
The
So I have
coordination
a little
again,
bit of
right?
that. Yes, the
Right.
coordination part of it. So if in some ways you can say that I coordinate the coordinators,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to come from like that perspective. But that doesn't mean I do everything. This morning I talked to 3 of the coordinators about things that I was following up on conversations that we were having yesterday. We have a new piece of equipment in, but we're trying to figure out how to train the staff. And we had, a customer, a client complaint. So I needed to talk to the doctor that happened with that. So
Mm-hmm.
even though I might be the hub of those things, I'm not doing all the work.
Fair. Yes.
So it's shared. So I will go to the person, I know who's responsible for what, and I take anything that comes to me, I bring to them. Like, okay, here, this is yours. This is not something that I'm going to take care of. This is something because I can't take more on my plate right now. I'm a member of the medical director team, but I am not the medical director. And this might belong to this doctor. This might belong to a different doctor. It might belong to one of our coordinators. So, and then we work together to come up with a better resolution. In terms of compensation, that's a little bit of a stickier situation.
Of
What
course.
we ended up doing here is we took the medical director stipend and we divided it among everybody equally because we all took a part of that. So we all have it's not significant, it's a small amount. So there's a little bit extra. But before we did that, the coordinators are not paid other than the fact that they're more skilled than some of the other technicians. There was no stipend or compensation that was attached to coming to these extra meetings or having more authority. They got paid more because they had more, hate to say more value because all of our team is valuable and
Yes.
everybody has an equal insight, but they had more skills. So they were naturally paid there and it kind of goes hand in hand
Yeah.
here.
They were generating almost more value for the organization in some
Yes,
ways.
exactly. But we're also big on is, anybody can be replaced. I know no one person is our end all be all. There's a lot of coordination. There's a lot of, trusting one another. Like, okay, if I hand this problem to you, like somebody comes with me with something and I hand it off to somebody else, I need to trust that that's going to get done.
Yeah.
And I'll circle back around in a day or two, like, hey, just because again, that's how my brain works, is that I'll circle back around and like, oh yeah, I talked to them, we're good, and then I can check it off my
Yeah.
checklist and I can move on.
You highlighted not having any single point of failure. That's a key tenet of anti-fragility. When you're
Mhm.
thinking about building an organization to be anti-fragile, in other words, not it won't crumble under the first major insult that it faces. Like, for example, if your key individual is all of a sudden no longer on your team,
Right.
is all of that knowledge held within that one individual, or is it baked into your systems to allow
It's in
your
our
organization to
systems.
continue to
It's
go? Right.
everybody else. And
Right.
as if a coordinator was to leave, we might not bring on someone immediately into that position. We might take their role and divide it among the 9 that are
Yeah.
left. So
Yep.
it continues to kind of disperse itself that way. So the end
Right.
goal is that I can take a vacation. Dave, before
Yeah.
he, retired, he could take a vacation and feel confident, like you're not going to get, you're not going to be sitting on a beach somewhere dealing with texts because this, that, and the other thing are happened.
Yep.
And having that strength in the interwovenness, the interconnectedness of the team
Yes.
is, I actually did take a vacation last summer, and I think there was one night that I was contacted because the alarm company contacted me. Other than that, like I didn't hear from anybody for 10 days, and it was wonderful.
Amazing.
And
Yeah.
I did not come back to weeks worth of work on my desk. I think it took me a
Wow.
day or two to catch up, and that was it, which
What
was
this
amazing.
highlights to me is that efficiency is still important, even if you make this shift from traditional hierarchical top-down command and control leadership to this distributed leadership. Efficiency is still important, but the way you
Yes,
achieve efficiency is a little bit different,
it
right? It's
is.
through engaging the team, it's decentralizing some of those roles, some of the activities, driving that engagement such that the responsiveness and the flexibility is there so that you can take a break as
Mhm.
a leader. Yeah,
Yep,
you can go have vacation or have dinner with your family or watch your
right,
kid's soccer game, whatever it is.
exactly.
It allows you to engage the team. That's love it. I love it. Okay, very good. Stacey, thanks again for this great insight. Again, very unique approach to structuring the work and the roles and the activities that need to take place in order for a veterinary practice to run. And I think we're blessed here at Civetto to be able to have an example internally that we can look at to say, here's one way that it can be done. Certainly not cookie cutter. It's not going to be
Right.
cookie cutter for everybody that tries it, right? But there's some key like points, some bullet points, some rules of thumb that one can follow. And I think you highlighted several of them today. So
Yeah,
thanks again for your time.
you're welcome.